Risk Management 1. This is the, one of the required classes that you have to have. Everyone in Alabama has to have this class, Risk Management 1. There are 2 other risk management. 2 is a salesperson, and 3 is for brokers. Now, about, I guess 2 years ago, they said, well, we don't have enough brokers to put a class together for just brokers. So they changed the rules, so now brokers can actually take the salesperson's course, which is the one that we'll do in about 2 weeks. What date you say is going to be? The
14th.
The 14th of December at 1 o'clock. We'll be doing Risk Management 2. So if anybody out there in the Google land wants to come on in. We're here. There's our address right there. Yeah, be a lot of fun. That'll be our Christmas party, and gotta motivate folks to come.
Christmas party.
Yeah, have the Christmas party and then do a risk management class, and we just knock 2 birds out with 1 stone there.
That's right.
So this one is been renamed to Avoiding Violations. Y'all remember back from pre-license, there were 31 violations that you could be tested on. They actually had tested on you about 15 of them. But there are 31 violations. We'll talk about some of them we won't. But the ones that they feel are important, this class was actually, the real estate company gave us the outline for this class. They said, here's what we want you to teach. And so that's what this is following, their outline. Okay, I am Steve, if y'all don't know me yet.
Hello, Steve.
They misspelled location.
Well, actually, others have told me that. The company is New Location, but the school is New Vocation.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah, it's New Vocation School. I had to have a different name. But anyway, here we go. Here are our learning objectives. We don't want to get in trouble when we're dealing with our immediate family or our own property. And the Real Estate Commission looks at us under a microscope if we're dealing with our own property. All somebody's got to do is call them and say, hey, they had an interest in this deal. You need to look into this. I think they did me wrong. They don't have to say, well, here's what they did wrong. Most violations, you've got to tell the Real Estate Commission, here's what I think they did wrong. But in your personal property, your family property, and that's parent, child, spouse, y'all can deal with them, but they're going to look at us tighter there. They're going to say, oh, really, you didn't tell them you were an agent? Uh-oh, we got a problem. Dealing with people's money. That's most likely, more people lose their license for fooling with somebody else's money than anything else in this business. Mortgage fraud. Mike likes that. Mortgage fraud? No, you don't like that? That is a serious thing in this business. One of the new scams that's come along is the wire transfer scam. They'll know that you've been talking, you've been on Facebook, and I'm closing my loan Friday, and we're using this real estate company, and they're just so great, and the closing attorney has just been so wonderful on this, and somebody's out there in internet land reading this, and they say, okay, you're closing with this attorney on Friday. Next thing you know, you get an email with that attorney's, looks like their letterhead, with new wiring instructions. Here's your wiring instructions for your money Friday afternoon. Wire it to this account. That's a real risk now. That's something y'all need to be aware of. Warn your buyers. Say, hey, watch out for this fraud. You'll get an email. You will get an email from the attorney giving you instructions on how to do it. But other people have learned that they can cheat, and that's what that fraud is about. Yes, Mike. Thank you, Mike. So Mike's in the mortgage business, title business. He saw this coming before we knew about it. I have heard, though, now of people actually sending emails and saying, here are your wiring instructions, and once you wired that money to them, it's gone. So, risk management. Give them a heads up. Be watching for email, In fact, they may even send it to the broker to send to the person. I'm not sure how they're doing that. Okay, Ann works for a closing attorney, so yeah, so that's how they're doing it.
We send it to the agent, we don't send it to the.
Let them do it, let them. Oh, I should have had my monkey on my back, risk management. So what happens when a violation? Somebody says, hey, Susan did me wrong. What is the Real Estate Commission going to do? We're going to talk about that. Misleading advertising. Remember, there were 3 rules on advertising. Been a long time since any of y'all were tested on this. But the first rule is it's got to be truthful. It's got to have your name on it. And it's got to have your brokerage name on it. Those are the 3 things on advertising. And what do we do about, we've got more people with assistants now. Well, what can these assistants do? And what can they not do? We're dealing with so many. When I got my real estate license, the whole real estate contract was an 8x11, 1 page. It was printed on front and back. That was the entire thing. There were no rules, no regulations. It was wild, wild west. There were no disclosures. You just hook people up. It's a 1-page contract. Here it is. Everybody's happy. Let's go to closing. Now look at all this stuff that we're dealing with now. Federal laws, state laws, the real estate under that state, local. We had health and safety. We just did a deal with a brand new home, just came out of the ground up in Vestavia. Well, they had to have a certificate of occupancy before the people can buy it and move in it. New regulations, that's a pretty old one, but now we're in the property management business too. We just got a letter about CenterPoint. So now anytime we turn a house in CenterPoint as a rental, CenterPoint's got to go inspect it. Make sure it's livable or habitable, I think is the word. Then those people that are realtors, you got some more rules on you. Code of ethics. Some people in this business don't have ethics. Speaking of ethics, go ahead, Joe.
Any other municipalities doing that? Where you got to be inspected? I hadn't heard of that.
That's the only one I know of, is CenterPoint. Wow. That was just about a month ago we got that.
Isn't it City of Birmingham?
No.
They're City of CenterPoint.
Yeah, City of CenterPoint. They're the ones that have the red light cameras. So be careful in CenterPoint. Court decisions, case law. You don't want to go to court in this business. You don't want to stand in front of a judge and say, well, I thought we could do this. I didn't know. We're considered experts. We have this little license that the state has said, you're an expert in real estate. So when you go in front of the judge, the scales are going to be tipped against you because you should have known better. Because Ann can tell you, attorneys love the phrase, well, it depends. Because as soon as they say it depends, it's kind of like the cab man flipping that meter down because the meter's running now. Well, if it's this way or this way, we can handle it this way. They love it depends. And there's always an it depends. It depends on something. You had this deal with the lady that just walked away. Now you got to deal with the earnest money. How are you going to settle that? Going to have to actually go to court. And you're going to have to stand in front of a judge and say, they just walked away. The judge's going to ask you some questions, but the burden's going to be on you. Because we're professionals. Let's do a little pretest here. The roof leaks on your listing, and you know it. Who do you voluntarily disclose this to?
Well, you got to tell everybody.
Nobody.
You don't have to tell anybody?
It's in your listing. They should read it.
It says voluntary. Alabama, buyer beware state. Y'all remember that? Caveat emptor, let the buyer beware.
See, I thought that'd be some kind of health and safety, roofs leaking, mold problems,
Well, I
things
didn't
coming
say
up.
anything about mold. It may just be a little bit leak.
Well, the appraiser could possibly catch it.
He may catch
Possibly.
it.
Home
But
inspector should.
you have no
Yeah.
duty to disclose this to anyone. Oh, that's risky.
But I don't think you'd have a fiduciary responsibility to do that.
Well, you have fiduciary responsibilities to your client,
Right.
but I don't see client up there.
Yeah, it's your listing.
Well, customer would be when that.
Customer would not.
Customer's not client.
Alright.
Okay.
I see, y'all had that class.
Yeah.
Come on, but we're gonna do another one in February.
That's a coachable moment.
It is. Are property disclosure forms a good idea for any of these folks?
To
Yes.
buy your house.
I would think so, yeah. Any of the rest of them?
Probably the seller's the one that made it.
Yeah. How about the agent?
Yeah, it would be good.
You should have
Yeah.
told me. Your brokers? Absolutely, get that monkey off of their back.
Who fills out the property disclosure form?
The seller should fill it out.
I got
Yeah.
you. Okay.
But in Alabama, we don't have a required property disclosure. It is one of the few states that is caveat emptor. So we actually have one on the Real Estate Commission's website you can print off and give to the seller. But they don't have to fill it out. But then the offer is going to be dependent on them filling this out because it's going to give us more information to ask more direct questions. Because in that property disclosure form, it's going to say, tell me about the roof. Well, if it leaks, then now they've got to tell you about that leak. Have you had any work done on the roof? Any work done on the plumbing, the HVAC? It's asking direct questions.
How lengthy is it?
About 3 pages. It covers everything. You would give you, I know more about this now. Let me dig a little deeper. Tell me about the roof. How old is this roof? It's to give you more information, but it's not required in Alabama. If the house is haunted, do you disclose that?
No.
No, Alabama has no law on stigmatized properties. Whoa, now if you can promise me the ghost is going to stay, then we'll talk about it. Must you leave a copy of the listing agreement with the seller?
Yes.
Yes, that is the one exception to the rule that says reasonable time to get paperwork back to the parties. The listing agreement, it specifically says you must leave a copy with the seller at the time you do it. Well, the way you do that is you go back to one of the closing techniques, which is assume the sale, and you go ahead and fill your paperwork out.
Before you get there.
Before you ever go there, run it through the copier, take it, both copies with you, they can sign one of them, you take that one back to the office. Leave them the one that you'd already filled out.
Now, the other day when I listed that house, when I got through getting my listing, I took a picture of it
Okay?
and texted it to him.
I guess that'd be the same thing.
Now, he does not do email. I would have done email, but he doesn't do email.
Okay.
So I texted to him, is that okay?
Debbie had a unique situation there, but she figured out how to apply, conform to the rules.
Well, how would that work with the e-sign and e-doc?
Well, they've got a copy there.
They got a copy, right?
Yeah, they got it. Just hit print on their printer, and
Okay.
there it is. But I guess just it being on their computer screen would.
But what she's saying is true, you get that little app cam scanner, we use that a lot in the title business.
I do too, I have it on there.
Okay, thank you.
But he didn't have an email. And most of the time, or I've always just emailed those.
Yeah, well, cam scanner, you can do email or text, on the phone.
I may can, I've just never tried anything but email. I use Tiny Scanner.
Now, how about this?
You use
When-
Cam Scanner?
CAM camera, cam scan.
Okay.
When's the net sheet required?
When you write it up, when you first
When you get the offer.
when you
Okay.
first take the listing.
That's the way I like it around here. So Greg knows how I like it here. If you've taken a listing, do a net sheet then too. That is not required. The real estate law says you've got to do one when there's an offer or counter offer. Well, you're just taking the listing. But it's a good idea now to let them know, here's what it's going to cost you. Because there are actually some people say, well, I'm going to sell a house for $100,000. I'm getting a check for $100,000. No, you're not.
But with
What
that,
do
you
you
have
figure?
to have the title fees and all that stuff on this too.
Well, we've got title charts, but I use rule of thumbs on that kind of stuff. We're looking at a title. I think we'll get to a net sheet later on. We'll talk about that. Can you pay a seller $100 to list with your company?
No.
think they changed that, didn't they?
Yes, you can.
Oh, you so, okay.
As long as it's disclosed. The buyer's got to know, well, I paid them $100 to list with my company. The lender especially has to know. $100 is not gonna mess up anybody's ratios, but what if it was 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000? In the lending process, that could mess up their ratios just because you gave them this money. And now they qualify when really they didn't qualify. So yes, you can do it as long as you disclose it. Everybody's got to know.
That doesn't go against RESPA guidelines, any of that.
As long as it's disclosed.
It would with the mortgage company, but maybe not with the real estate.
Yeah, you would have to know as a mortgage company, we would have to, well, I gave them $100.
No, if I gave somebody $100 and said, here, let me do your mortgage,
No,
that would be not good.
that's different.
Yes.
That's why it's
Let's
hard.
stay with real estate. Stay with real estate.
Sorry.
There's one,
I don't have a mortgage broker license.
there's one in Pleasant Grove now that's listed and it says it's reduced and you get a 3-day, 4-night or 4-night, 3-day
That
trip
is-
to Gatlinburg.
That's
That's in the
fine.
listing, they've
Yeah.
disclosed it.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
So I guess this answered that question. Yeah, everyone knows no. You want to help your buyer to do the deal so bad that you give them $1,000. Can you give them 1,000?
I don't think so, Steve.
Well, we just gave them 100.
Even if you have to split
$1,000
it.
per pound.
1,000.
And for a penny and for a pound.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. If you can give them $1, you can give them 10,000. As long as everybody knows.
Oh.
Document, document, document in this business. When's the recad got to be presented? You remember what recad was?
When you first talk to them, when you first see them,
Yes, before
When you
any
first-
confidential information is disclosed.
right?
When must earnest money be deposited?
Within 3 days.
As soon as.
Soon as
As soon as.
As soon as possible.
Yes.
Well, it's going to depend on the contract. If the contract says in 3 days, or the contract says after the inspection, used to, we would get a check with the offer, because that's back in the old days, you actually did paper, and you would actually take it to the other agent.
Staple the check on the contract.
Yeah, you'd staple the check to the contract. Now it's not that way. Now they'll send you a photocopy of the check along with the contract, and it's all coming in email. They can't send you a check in email. I guess you could use that camera app you've got and go ahead and you could deposit the check right then.
That can be done.
Yeah, I guess it could. But it's going to depend on what the contract says. If it says after the inspection, but the rule is once it becomes a two-sided contract, then it's got to go in the bank. The mayor wants a new site for City Hall. Do you have to give him a recad form?
What is a recap form? I should know this.
Real estate consumer agency disclosure. That's where you first meet someone and say, I'm a real estate agent. I've got responsibilities, you have rights. This case,
I think they're a little different.
commercial is, you're required to give a recad in commercial deals, except if they're an artificial entity. Government, they're assumed to have higher knowledge than the average person
That's
does.
a bad assumption.
Yeah, that's a bad assumption there. But anyway, you don't have to recad an artificial entity. Anybody else, give them the form.
Well, does artificial entity include a corporation?
Sure, yes,
Okay.
yes. Is recad required in property management?
No.
No, y'all got that one good. Y'all went through my pre-license, didn't you? Because that is one of the exceptions. The Real Estate Commission came up here when all this started and had a little meeting with us and said, it's just too much trouble to give everybody you meet in the property management business a recad form. So they said, you don't have to. Now, if we were listing the owner's house, then we're going to have to give them a recad form. But just to put it on the market to lease, we don't. Can agency be implied? Better not.
No.
Oh, no.
Better not. Implied agency in Alabama is fraud. 3 elements to fraud. Well, we're gonna get to that slide. You're a licensee and decide to sell your own private home on Fizbo.com. Do you need to disclose your status as an agent?
Yes, sir.
All these heads shaking, yes, good.
Yes.
But okay.
Who can you help with a real estate deal if you don't have a license?
Family
Your
member.
Okay,
mother,
specifically,
your kid, your mother, your daddy.
parent, child,
Parents.
spouse.
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything about cousin or brother. No, it says parent, child, spouse, and your own property. There's some other exemptions to it too, but we'll.
I don't really well,
You had a question?
well, I mean, if you don't have a real estate license, I mean, I don't see why that really pertains to this right here.
You've got to have a real estate license to do a barn sale for
Right, I
another in
understand.
Alabama.
But the way that question reads, I mean, who
You
can
can
you
help your-
help if you don't have a license?
Yeah, you can help your parent, child, or spouse even if you don't have a license. Other people that you want to help, you got to have a license. Who do you advise? Client. Yes, we got all those C's. I needed one more C up there just to really make it look like the real estate test. Cousin. Hi, is it okay if you say your broker sets the commission rates you charge based on the services offered? Is that okay?
No, it's not okay.
Oh,
Wait a minute. Is it okay to say
the one on the bottom's not okay. My broker charges what everyone else charges.
You're not supposed
Ooh,
to
can't
discuss
say that.
rates.
That is, what's that called? Price fixing,
Yeah,
antitrust issues there. But up
The
on
first
top,
one, they can
Yeah, you
say,
can, I think,
my
the first
broker
Absolutely.
charges 6%, but that's it, 6% rate. I mean, you could say that.
you can say, my broker requires us to charge 6%.
6%, right.
And they'll say, well, I can get it over here for 5%. And you say, well, my broker may be able to work a deal with
You
you.
call him.
Ask for more than you think you're gonna get first. Then back down. As a property manager, can you discriminate against a drug abuser?
Yeah. Abuser?
Yeah,
Abuser you can, but if he's in treatment, you can't.
there you go.
Yeah.
You read ahead, didn't you?
Susan.
Uh-oh.
Can a lender pay for open house expenses even if they don't attend?
No.
No. Thank you, Mike. You knew that one.
got that real quick.
Why, no, we can't. That's a RESPA violation. Now, if the lender is there giving out information on loans, they can help you with your expenses. But they can't just say, hey, I'm gonna kick you in $100 to buy some, gift cards or something. Can't do that. That's RESPA violation. Is there a requirement to disclose radon?
If you know about
If
it.
you know about it, that's a health and safety. You must disclose any known health and safety issues. You have no duty to discover radon. Is there a requirement to disclose asbestos?
Yes.
If you know about it.
If you know about it. Boy, see how I'll trick y'all with this? I say, is this one? How about this one? Yes.
You gotta get a
This is
form
a
filled
health
out
and-
on that. No,
This is a health and safety issue. That's the asbestos he's breathing in there. What's a latent defect? Hidden defect. Do you have any duty to discover those?
Yep.
No duty to discover latent defects. Do you have a duty to discover a patent defect? Have y'all forgotten that word already? Patent means obvious. There's this great big hole in the roof. Do you have a duty to disclose that?
sure they can see it.
No!
Yeah.
Well, if in Alabama, buyer beware, the buyer has a duty to discover anything about that property they need to know. So even if they're not there, they're living in California buying this house, they really need to get a home inspector to walk through there and look for holes in the roof. Here's why this is important. We talked about the seller disclosure form. Here's why. You're going to get sued 70% of the time by buyers. Why do you think that is? You should have told me.
Yeah.
You knew. You knew the roof leaked. Why didn't you tell me? Well, under Alabama law, I'm not required to tell you the roof leaks unless it's got mold and stuff growing around it, and I know it's got mold, but just a little roof leak, unless you specifically say, does the roof leak? Now I gotta say, yeah.
Is there a form that you can have them sign that they, I'm sure there is, again, I'm not a realtor, but that they accept or deny a home inspection?
Oh yeah, we get into one
Yeah,
of
that's all.
those. We headed there. You reading the notes? You reading ahead?
That's right.
Y'all know how I love acronyms. Well, there's an acronym for risk management. It's EMPTOR. You want to avoid the situations, just like we know the rules, so we will avoid getting into a situation that's risky for our license. We want to control these with like office policy, just like you said, my broker says this is our office policy on commissions. Well, office policies are going to address things like that, telling you, don't say we charge what everybody else charges. That's awful. That keeps you out of trouble. Or you want to transfer the risk. That would be with a disclosure form. You could say, okay, Mr. Seller, this is really a rat hole. I'd like for you to fill this out. And they're going to say, nah, I'd rather not. They don't have to. Alabama. Or you can retain that risk. And you retain it through like insurance. E&O insurance will cover you under some of these things. But Alabama, since 1987, has not required E&O insurance. So,
For real estate people?
yeah. So it's rare that you're going to find anybody with E&O insurance. The other thing about insurance invites people to sue you. If you got a big sticker on the bumper that says, insured by AAA, let me just get in front of them, tap on the brakes. Here we go. Burden of proof, or burden. The burden is on the buyer, but not completely. We have limitations on this burden. And unfortunately for us, they're written on the back of our hand. So anytime we get confused on what we have to disclose, what we have to say, we can just look at our hand and say, oh, there it is, H-A-N-D. Hand. H is health and safety. If you know about it, you got to talk about it. A, assumption of duty. You are their agent. You have fiduciary duties to them now. They say, find out all you can about this house. Well, then you may send the seller a disclosure form along with the offer. It'll give you more things that you can ask them about. New construction, that's our N, is covered by a warranty. You buy a new house, you walk in there and the toilet doesn't flush, you don't have to go sue somebody, you just call the builder and say, hey, the toilet doesn't flush. It's, oh, we hadn't turned the water on yet. Oh, okay. They'll be right over. Greg and I had this down a little house in Chelsea.
Yeah.
The outside water wouldn't come on. All the rest of the water works just fine. They just can't understand why the outside water won't turn on. Well, we don't need to call somebody to come, a repair person or a plumber to come fix this. Just gonna call the builder. Call the builder and they said, okay, we'll go right over there and fix it. And they went right over there and they showed them how to turn that faucet on. And direct question or direct inquiry. You ask someone a direct question, does the roof leak? They're either going to say yes or no. If they say yes, you say, tell me more about the roof leak. Well, if it rains really, really hard and the wind's blowing from the west, it'll leak a little bit right here. But they would never have told you that. You got to know how to frame your questions. Fraud. That's fraud. And misrepresentation. You got two different kinds. We've got intentional. you have seen the reports that said this mold in the basement is actually a very dangerous, toxic mold. Smells like mildew though. So you say, no, that's not mold, it's just mildew. You can just spray some Clorox on it and wash it away and everything will be good. That's intentional fraud right there. And then you got intentional concealment. When you're working with somebody, trying to find a house, I'm going to tell you right now, the number one thing most people are looking for is a school zone. They want their kids in this school because they want them to learn the alphabet. Some of the schools here in Birmingham you might not learn. They don't have enough letters, enough money to teach you all the letters. So there you are, you got up to N and you don't know if that's an O or a 0. Well, they want their kids in a school that will teach them all the letters. And you're working with them, and an example of this is little they don't like to be called subdivisions, they like them new home communities. Lake Cyrus. Half of Lake Cyrus is in Hoover, which is, they say, one of the better schools. They teach you most of the letters, most of the numbers. You have a good chance of getting on through life. But the back half of Lake Cyrus is in Bessemer. Uh-oh, entirely different school system. So you're showing people houses in Lake Cyrus, and they see one over there with a sale sign, and you say, yeah, that's in Hoover school system. Yeah, everything in here is Hoover. Well, you've concealed something that you knew where the line was. Innocent, just carelessness. We actually have a duty to have reasonable care. And if you can't give somebody reasonable care, they're going to call the real estate commission and say, hey, here's what they did. Here's what they did to me. They should have known better than that. And just plain negligence is innocent negligence, and they're just plain negligence. A responsible agent would have known this. So y'all in trouble already?
I just crossed my leg and hit him in the knee.
Oh.
With the heel of her shoe.
Suppression. That's you were down in the basement with the seller. They were showing you the house, and they said, "Yeah, you see these lines on the wall? That's the last 3 floods we've had in here." So you know now, you have knowledge that this basement floods pretty often. And the buyer says, "Had any trouble with water around here? Like the basement flooding or anything?" You say, "Oh no, don't know anything about that." That's suppression. You're withholding a material fact. Can't hold a material quicker. Knowledge of and duty to disclose. You would have had a duty to disclose. That's a material fact, the basement floods. Here are elements of fraud. It's FORD. FORD is the little acronym there. False representation of a fact. You either told them something that was a lie, or you withheld something that you should have told them. That's the basis of the fraud. This lawyer back there. And this person relied on what you told them. There's our second element. Third element is they were damaged by it. That's where you're going to have to get your checkbook out, because the penalties for fraud is 3 times the damages. And they're probably going to want court costs and lawyer fees, and they're just going to keep piling on you there. So I'm just telling you, tell the truth in this business. Lie to no one. A half-truth is a whole lie. Back to about the form. They say, no, I don't want to get it. I don't have the $400 to get it inspected. And that's about what it's going to cost. This next one is a form that says, I told you to get it inspected. And if you don't want to get it inspected, I'm going to get you to sign this piece of paper so I can get that monkey off of my back and put it on you. Wasn't it your deal we had with the girl that said, no, I don't want one? And then she moved in, what, a week or 2 weeks?
Well, she wanted one then.
Yeah, the roof's leaking and the basement's flooding and air conditioning, all these things wrong with the
She
house.
wanted a fixer-upper.
Well, she got
She got one.
one, but she didn't want one of these. So she called Susan and said, "What you gonna do about it?" Susan said, "Get your contract out. Read the contract. It says, item so-and-so, agent is advising you to get a home inspection. And you chose not to. Monkey's off my back. Here, you hold it for a little while."
On that, when is the, a time, I guess, when you find out that they say they don't want a home inspection, would be the time to whip this thing out and have them sign?
Yeah, I'd probably right there when it's fresh on everybody's mind, because later on, they're not gonna remember that you told them.
Right.
Everybody's got a selective memory. And in this, our business, 3 words are document, document, document. This is just one of the little pieces of paper. And here's the thing about going to court. The person with the biggest pile of papers wins.
Mhm.
You
I
see
got more
some,
documentation than you do. I got the form. You
sorry.
don't.
you see any as is, where is,
Mhm.
put all that,
That's
I
fine.
put that,
Oh,
put
yeah.
that in there next time.
And then we're
As,
gonna jump on that in a
as is
minute.
sold,
I
Do
think
you
that's
have
probably.
copies of that form?
no nothing.
What?
Do you have copies of that form?
Here's some other things about inspections. This comes from Jim Lawrence, who was one of the principals in LAA, who wrote this little list up. And one of the things that he told us, he said, if you haven't been sued, you're not doing any business. That's what he said. So he has learned what we need to cover here. And he said, even if you're a home inspector, don't do your own home inspection. No. Don't go with the inspector either, because you're the selling agent, and your buyer says, "Can you go with a home inspector?" "No, I got eye surgery Thursday. I can't do that. I got it every day that you want me to do this. I got some kind of something I got to do." Because first thing they're going to do is they're going to say, "What did he say?" And then you're going to start talking, and then everything you said is now fact. And you have taken ownership of that information. Get the summary report from the inspector. They were going to send about a 30-page with beautiful pictures, everything they've seen in here, everything they think they saw, everything you need to know about, they're going to tell you, and then they give you a little summary. Here are the things that are important. That's the one you want to see. What is it you want me to fix? And then you take that to the seller and say, here's what they said they want fixed. And the seller says, yes, yes, no. That'll be $10,000. I can't do that. Well, that's when you get into some negotiating. Well, what can we trade off to make this happen? This case, he said one of his agents got the inspection back, and she just flipped through it real quick. Everything looked pretty good. She didn't get to the summary. She didn't even get that far. She was on her way out the door to go shopping or something, because she's spending her commission check already. I'm only a week away from closing now. So she just drew a big smiley face on it. And that was her interpretation of everything's fine. The buyer relied on that, and everything wasn't fine. They should have read the summary at least. You don't let the seller select or pay for the inspector. We've got an inspector that works here with us that we trust him. And he says, my job is not to kill the sale. My job is to inspect the property. And if there's something in there that's going to kill the sale, it's not because I uncovered it or covered it up. It's either there or it's not. And failing to let them see the importance of this inspection either. And if they don't want to do it, then have them sign that form. And the inspector is not an expert on everything. He's had a 60-hour class on inspecting houses, same number of hours y'all had to get your real estate license. Well, as a real estate licensee, you don't know anything about inspections. Never done one. Well, he has had a 60-hour on it that told him what to look for, and then now he sees something like, oh, the heater has got rust just falling out of it all over the floor. Well, to him, that means something. It's probably the gas has reacted with the metal and that's what's causing the rust. Well, that's going to tell him that to tell you, you need to get an HVAC professional out here to take this, at least take the cover off of it and look inside and see what's going on. And specialized inspectors, they'll tell you when you need them.
Let me ask you, you and I talked about this a little bit too, but with a seller, of course, the homeowner, the buyer gets a home inspection. But from a selling standpoint, would it be a good idea to tell a seller that it would be a good idea for them to get their own home inspection?
No.
To use as negotiating tool?
Well, you can have the seller.
Not that the buyer would rely on it, but
Yeah,
just for their
well,
knowledge.
the seller can go ahead and pay $400 now and get a list of the things that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And fix them now. Then when the next inspector comes through, you think he's gonna find those things wrong now? No, because they've been fixed.
But he's gonna find more.
He's gonna find.
It don't matter, I wouldn't recommend that.
He's gonna find more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
And you
you
might
spent-
not have found a lot of that.
She just went through this. She got an inspection, had to do $10,000.
Four inspectors.
Oh my goodness.
All
And each
of
one
them's
of them
different.
found more stuff, and she just happened having to go back and fix more and more. Her advice is to wait until let the buyer hire their inspector. He's gonna go in there and say, here's what I found, and then why do we want to deal with it?
And you know something else on that deal, on the appraiser, they said USDA required the hot water tank to be 18 inches off the ground. Well, that is not true.
If
And I
sealed,
had-
If it's
yeah.
gassed, it is.
If
It
it's
was
sealed,
gas, but it was sealed.
yeah, the
It
sealed
was a
gas you can
newer
put on the
one.
floor.
Not in the
I like to
garage,
have-
not with any
Garage,
vehicles
Around
around.
the vehicles, okay.
If it's any vehicles around, it got to be 18 inches off the floor.
That's why I hire an inspector. I don't know.
That's just this international building code. If there's vehicles, if there's any combustibles anywhere.
Now, I've seen them
And
that have like a post in front of them.
Yes.
Where the car can't
That's
run
building
into.
code also.
Okay. See, he
Yes.
had the building.
I like
he had
to
a contractor's license.
never got a plumber that would do it, because they kept saying that's not true, that don't have to be. It don't
What?
have to be lifted, it's contained. That hot water tank is not gonna blow up.
Okay. All right. Other points. Now, I've already said this once. I'm gonna say it again. Document, document, document. Have all your papers in the file. When they say, well, you didn't tell me to get an inspection, and now I got all these things I gotta fix. Well, let me just flip through the file. There's the piece of paper that said, and you signed it. This is on when in doubt, disclose, but you need permission for some things, like the ghost in the attic. That's not real, except in that seller's mind. The next person that moves in there, they don't know anything about the ghost. So the ghost is probably not going to be there anymore. But what if there was a murder-suicide in that house 2 years ago? You think that's something that the buyer would want to know about?
They would want to.
Some would, some don't care. But that's one of the kind of gray areas on disclosing. Do you say, well, I need to tell you about the murder-suicide here? Well, something like that, you're going to need the seller's permission to disclose that. Now, if the body's still in the living room and the blood stains are still there, you're probably going to have to talk about that. So we're going to get the body out before y'all move in. But get the seller's permission on gray areas. The stuff on we were talking about the water lines in the basement earlier. That is something that the seller says you don't talk about that. Well, we're not taking this listing. You just know, because you're going to lie to me about other things too. And I'm going to get in trouble because you lying. I know it leaks and you told me don't tell anybody. Sorry. That next one about questionable information. It wasn't long ago, we didn't have square footage on any of the MLS listings. It was just, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Well, how big is it? It's big. Big. Well, how many square feet? I don't know. Don't know. But now we have square footage in our MLS information. We can get it off the tax record. But you, as an agent, are not allowed to go in and measure. The seller can measure it and say, it's got this many square feet, but you don't have that monkey on your back. On the MLS, it's got a little click thing there that said, I got this information from the tax record, the builder's plan, the appraiser, or the seller told me. We had one down in Homewood about 6 months ago. It was a flip, and the seller added 200 square feet to the house. I mean, it's just perfect. I mean, it looked just like it's always been there. They matched the hardwood floor. You could not tell where the wall was a carport at one time. They fixed all that and made that more living area. 200 square feet in Homewood is worth a lot of money. A lot of money. Well, we put the information in there and clicked. They didn't have per seller at that time. They just had tax records and builder's plans, and we put the builder plan. Well, about the next day, we got an email from the multiple listing service that no, this house only has this many square feet in it. And I wrote her back. I said, yeah, that's what it was, but the seller added 200 square feet. And so we had to make a note in the notes and the consumer thing that the seller added 200 square feet to this house. Not just, we think it's about that.
They ask for any proof, any building inspections, anything from
No,
city, nothing?
no. We just disclosed that the seller had added 200 square feet. Now, I don't know is an acceptable answer because, you know, we don't know. I don't know. I've been in this a long time and I don't know half of what I probably should know. But it's okay if somebody asks you a question and you say, I don't know. But the next thing out of your mouth should be, I'll find out. Or well, this person knows, let me put you with them. And we're still on our inspection is, yeah, I see the spot on the roof up there. I see that little stain on the sheetrock. Do you know what caused that stain? Do you know if the roof is still leaking? You can't just assume the roof is still leaking there. It used to leak there, but they put a new roof on the house now. It probably doesn't leak there anymore. May, but probably not. And then this is one of Jim's sayings. After the closing, keep your distance from that buyer. Just don't answer the phone. You know it's them because they're calling you the next day. What do you think they're calling you about? Do you know the roof leaks? They want to put that monkey on your back. No, don't let them. Just let them move in, settle down, and then follow up with them, you know, a couple of weeks later. How's your new house working? Oh, well, we thought the roof was leaking in there. We saw the spot, but it's rained really hard since then, and we've been up on the roof, and we see there's a new roof here now, where you would have had a roof issue on you there right after the closing. This is back to our fraud. We've already talked about the elements of fraud. These are things that can happen to you. Actual, punitive, and the contract. They can say, nope, I'm not doing this. You're lying to me. And in court, if you lie to them one time, you have no credibility. So no matter what else you say after that, doesn't count. Then we got the real estate commission to deal with. You know, they sued us, got us in court. We lost. They got a judgment against us now. What have we got to do about that with the real estate commission? Y'all remember the rule on that? We got to inform them within 10 days.
Let them know.
I got sued because of a real estate transaction. Here's what's going on. And they'll send you back a letter saying, okay, when it's settled, you have 10 days to let us know what happened. They got some other things they can do to you. They're going to find out, well, why were you sued? Well, if it was a real estate violation, real estate rule violation, law violation, then they're going to want to know more. Tell me more about this. And they're going to call you and talk to you on the phone, and then they're going to say, well, you got some documentation on that? Send us everything on this. And then they're gonna keep digging, and if they found out where you lied to them about the flooding in the basement, it flooded, it ruined their stuff, they sued you, and they got a $30,000 judgment against you. Now you're gonna have to go in front of the real estate commission too, say, yeah, I did lie to them. Take a lawyer if you're gonna say that.
No need.
No need. No need.
In trouble.
Don't waste your money on a lawyer. Just go ahead and mail your license back to them. So, and we get this. We have the updates. It's right there's a little newsletter agents get about things that people have done last month that they got caught. And there'll always be something in there to where someone, they just sit there, they just give up. And they'll just send their license back to the real estate commission because they know they had no defense. But they can revoke your license, they can suspend it, they can just slap you on the wrist, or they can fine you from, y'all remember from pre-license how much? Oh, it's written there. $100 to $2,500. Now that's what's on the real estate license test. We do case studies in here in one of the sessions, and they can fine you anything they want to fine you. There was one to where it was a property management company that was doing something wrong, and they found out about it, and they said, okay, how much money did you make off of this little scheme you were doing? And they'd made like $17,000 cheating people, and they said, that's your fine. You got to pay them back and pay us $17,000. Ooh. So even though you think you can say, well, the maximum they can do to me is $2,500, no, they can pretty much do anything they want to do. What you think? Good idea for the seller? We had this as our pre-test. Good idea for the seller, buyer, agent, any of them? Personally, I think it's a good idea for everybody. The more information we have, the better decisions we're going to make.
That's getting the seller's disclosure.
Yeah,
Get the seller to fill out a disclosure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we go along with that.
We had the little chart up there a minute ago. 2/3 of the lawsuits are by buyers saying, well, you should have told me this, but you didn't. Now I've been hurt. This is what one looks like. This is it's about a 3-page form. It says house built before '78. Do you know of any existing problems affecting the plumbing, electrical, appliances? Did you know anything about any of those? If you do, this is saying you need to talk about it.
Can that be done in like a e-document, like a fillable document, so we could send that to somebody?
I guess you could, because the Real Estate Commission has one on their website that you could pull off and put it into DocuSign and, you know, make it a live form.
I mean, I would think that, you know, if we were a real estate agent, I would think you'd want to do that with every person who listed the home with anybody. I mean, you know.
I think it's a great idea, but Alabama.
Well, just from a general marketing standpoint, I mean, you know, when you're selling widgets, the more you know about the widget you're selling, the more widgets you're going to sell. I don't care what it is. It's pencils.
I personally, and this is just my opinion, think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've only done it one time though. I mean, it was a house that just you had a lot of problems. Had a lot of problems, and I thought, well, we want to know more. And we sent it along with the offer, and they just didn't even want to talk about anything. So the offer was not valid because this was not filled out.
Well, I would think 9 times out of 10, the seller would just say, okay, well, you know, just part of what I got to do. You know.
Well, most states require this.
Yeah.
Georgia's got one, Florida's got one. I'll bet Tennessee and North Carolina, most states have one. We're going to go 10 more minutes and we'll take one break during this class. Unless y'all just want to sit here for 3 full hours without taking a break. Let's don't do that. Buyer's acknowledgement. All right, this is the buyer consultation. When you first come up with someone that wants to buy something, they may have never bought a house before, or it may have been 20 years since they bought a house. You really need to bring them into the office and sit them down at the conference table and talk about these issues that are going to be coming up. And here's what they are. This is 3 pages of stuff. What is a home inspection? Well, if you bought a house 20 years ago, they weren't doing home inspections there. You don't know about home inspections. Just what is a home inspection? What do they look for? Well, now's the time, before we get out and do anything else, here's what a home inspection is, here's what it covers, here's what you can expect, here's everything you need to know about one. Well, isn't that the same thing as a home warranty then? No. If you bought the last sale you did was 20 years ago, they didn't have home warranties then either. So we need to talk about home warranties. Maybe even get the little brochure out. Here's what they cover, here's what they don't cover, here's how much it costs. And if you're working with the buyer, you probably want to say you always want to ask for a home inspection. If nothing else, it's a bargaining tool. Because a home inspection is $600, $700. I mean, a home warranty. That may turn into be a bargaining chip for you. Contract deadlines. Alabama now in our Birmingham contract says time is of the essence. That means it's carved in stone. If you miss the time, you're in breach or you've either lost some rights. So, time. Somebody mentioned as is earlier. As is in Alabama means exactly that. You bought it just like it's sitting here. It's got all the scars and warts and diseases and everything else that this thing can have. You bought them all. It just goes on and on and on. But these are the kind of things, risk management, that you need to talk about now. Here's the things we need to be on the same page on. Because later on when we say we need to get the home inspector lined up and you say, no, it looks pretty good to me. I'll get Uncle Henry to come over here and take a walk through it. He used to be a builder 20 years ago. Well, get that monkey off your back now. Talk about it now. And then later on when you bring it up again, they've already heard it and they understand what's going on. Please sound like we had a visitor. Let me just stop. Back we go. This thing goes on 3 pages. Talks about the final walkthrough. Why do we need to do that? Who are the vendors involved? Chinese drywall. That's something we weren't talking about even 10 years ago. Now, if it's got it, we got a problem. All these things.
Megan's Law.
Megan's Law, yeah.
Gotta be on there.
Do we need to talk? Do we need to find out who these people are? Is that one of our responsibilities?
No.
No. If they want to know, you say there's a website. You can go to the website and find out. We have no duty to discover things like that. Stigmatized properties. Alabama has no law on stigmatized properties. It doesn't mention it anywhere in the law, real estate law, or I guess any other law. But there are 4 steps to it. Is it fact or fiction? Well, I'm guessing if there's a ghost in the attic, that's probably fiction. Now, we had a...
Have you ever lived in a haunted house?
No.
Then it wouldn't be fact or fiction. I mean, you wouldn't be fiction, because, I mean, there's things that really happen.
Your mind.
In their mind.
Even if it is in your mind for real to happen.
Yeah.
That's true.
As if it's you, I guess.
Well, there again, it's fact or fiction. Is there a ghost in the
I
attic?
understand. I mean, I think sometimes, and I believe it, and I really do, but I think they follow people more than they just stay.
I think it's in somebody's head, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a raccoon up here one night making
It wasn't
noise.
me, I think it was my child.
I thought it was a ghost.
How'd you find out it's a raccoon?
Well, next day there was some insulation laying on it. And we figured, what's going on? And the people next door said, we've had trouble with raccoons. And so he got a trap and put it up there and caught him.
Sure enough.
Anyway, Alabama law is silent on it. So if the seller tells you about the ghost in the attic, you really have no duty to tell the buyer, because it's probably in the mind of the seller. Now, is this ghost, the materiality of it? It was a murder in the master bedroom 2 years ago. If the murderer is still in the master bedroom, this may be an issue. But if not, it's a ghost. Who's going to say it's real or not? I guess that's why they haven't written a law on it. Oh, AIDS disclosure. AIDS, you remember our fresh corn? Y'all remember fresh corn? You remember eating fresh corn? Well, if you had my class, you had some fresh corn. Those are the protected classes. FRSH, E and O from the fresh corn is your E&O insurance won't cover a violation, or it means equal opportunity for everyone. But the H in our fresh covers handicap. Handicap, we're going to drill down to this. If someone had AIDS there, they're protected under the handicap status. You cannot disclose someone died in this house of AIDS, no matter if they ask you a direct question. Did somebody die in this house of AIDS? You're gonna have to say, well, you may know, then that's a lie.
True.
You're gonna have to say, fair housing laws prohibit me from telling you anything about the people that were here before. That's just the same thing as saying, what church did they go to? What color was their skin? What was this? What was that? No, nothing to do with that house. Someone died there of AIDS. Well, AIDS virus, how long does that live? Hours, days, years?
Till you die.
Well, if it was somebody died in the house, the virus that was in this house, how long is it still going to be there anyway? I'm just guessing hours, and it's gone. And then probably somebody cleaned the house up too. And if they've been dead for at least a week, I'm betting there's no AIDS left in there. But that's over my pay grade. I'm just not allowed to just talk about it. It's not relevant to this property. And that goes, another handicap also covers a drug abuser. If they are in treatment, you can't discriminate against them. If they're not in treatment, they're just in there, and every time you go by there, you see them in there cooking meth.
I was gonna say, what if it's a meth lab?
Yeah,
That might be a little bit of an issue.
You went over to collect the rent one day, and they're in there cooking meth. That's a different story.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and this is now a hazard waste site.
Yeah, we got an entirely different issue now.
EPA.
But if they, they were, had been smoking meth, and now they've changed their life, and they're in rehab now.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. You can't discriminate against them now. But if you go back and catch them, in fact, in our leases, we've got, if we catch you, you're gone. No second chance. All right, so even if you ask a direct question. All right, we did our 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about as is. Let's take our break. As is. That's exactly what it means. You buying a house as is. You're buying it. I mean, no matter what's wrong with it, it's as is. And this is a situation where the seller doesn't have to tell you anything. They can actually lie to you on an as-is sale, and you have no recourse because you're signing a paper saying, I'm buying it as is. I'm not depending on you to tell me anything. So a lot of the foreclosures are all sold as is because the lender that got it, they don't know anything about that house. They're in Wisconsin. They can't find Alabama on a map. So they don't know anything about this house. You can give them a seller disclosure form and they're going to say no. I don't know anything about it. Yes?
Before I met you, Steve, I worked with a guy, his name was Nick Peters, broker, and he would not do any contract other than as is. That was it. It was his only, you write as is, and all his contracts where no misunderstanding, you're buying this house, and that was on, it didn't matter if it was a 5-year-old house or a 105-year-old house, it didn't matter.
That's risk
And he did,
management.
and he
for
did
him.
that on
That's
every
exact-
single contract.
That's what he was practicing, was
Mhm.
risk management. Can't get sued. If you get sued,
Mhm.
judge is gonna say, show me the contract. Caveat emptor applies, because that is Alabama, buyer beware. You wanna know what's wrong with the house? Get some inspectors to go in there. And there at the bottom, that's the important part where he's just, all fraud claims are barred. If you bought it as is, you knew it. Corrected defects, all right? There were termites in here. Would that be a defect?
Good.
Well, let's just say there are termites here. That's
Yeah,
a latent defect. That's something you'd want to know about. But what if all the floor was ripped out, it was termite treatment, all new wood in here, new subfloor, new carpet? Now, is it a defect? No, not now. The defect has been corrected. You don't have to talk about the termites now. They say, I heard there were termites in this house. Then that's pretty much almost a direct question there. I heard it, tell me more. Yes, there were termites here, but it's all been corrected. So it's no longer a defect. Situations, we got some situations here. Let's see what y'all think.
I would say C or B, I don't know.
I would say that, you don't have to tell them.
no, they need to get a home inspection.
Yeah, you need to get a home inspection, but
They didn't ask me straight up, did they?
correct. That would be the situation where you would have to say,
Yeah.
had they said, does the air conditioner work? Yes or no. But here, you know it doesn't work. As long as they don't ask you,
You don't have to say.
you don't have to disclose it, so it's B. How about another one? A little different here. Got a health and safety issue.
Situation number one, though, you get 100 degrees in Alabama. You might have a health and safety
You're
issue
good.
also.
That's true.
I don't know.
I would say A.
That is what you should do. This is it's 30 feet off the ground. You fall through the deck up there, you're gonna get hurt. And that would be a health and safety. So you've got to disclose known health and safety issues.
A little unhealthy.
I guess that'd be D.
I'm with D. Yeah, absolutely. Discussed it. These are the things we were talking about. It's a material fact. It's a little unhealthy to me is health and safety. And you can't, discreetly tell the other agent, then you're violating, well, you shouldn't have never taken the listing anyway. If they say, well, don't tell anybody about that.
I would say C, I guess.
Yeah.
They ask you a direct question, does the roof leak? You know it does.
Pretty apparent.
It does.
Not a health and safety, but still it was a direct question. Does the roof leak? do one more of these. They're so much fun.
I guess that's indeed, it's gonna be A.
Okay, is this a health and safety issue?
No,
No.
No?
says it's not.
Did they ask you a direct question about that leak?
No.
They just says the house in generally good condition?
Yeah.
What's the true answer to that?
Yeah.
The
Yes,
house
it
is
is.
in good general condition.
That's what you're gonna tell them. Let's see. Yes, the house is in generally good condition. Let's skip through the rest of those. Y'all ever seen the law book?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Long
you get
time
one
ago.
as a broker. They mail them out to all brokers. Anybody else, they'll sell you one. On their website, they'll sell you one, but the laws don't change much. If you've got one from 5 or 10 years ago, you can get the updates to it without having to get another new book.
How long have we had our Constitution?
Well, this is just the real estate
Yeah.
rules. All right, we got project disclosure, we've already covered that. Our immediate family, we've talked about that. False promises, that we've not talked about. This is somebody, you go out on your listing presentation and they say, how much are you gonna charge me to list my house? And you say, well, my broker requires us to charge 6% based on our services. And they say, whoa, how about if you do both sides, will you cut that commission? And you say, sure. And then you end up doing both sides of the commission, both sides of the sale, but you forgot about that discount you just offered them. And go to closing and they get charged 6%. You gave them a false promise, they were hurt by it, damaged, you got a problem here. They're gonna call the real estate commission, said they lied to me about the commission. And they're gonna call you and say, tell me more about this.
Well, can you offer, if that were the case, being no matter how stupid that might sound for the agent not doing it, but could you, at that point, can they say, okay, well, I forgot, I'll go ahead and give you the reduced commission here at closing?
That would be hopefully the best solution.
But what would be the deal between the agent and his broker, though?
Yeah, well, the broker might have said our policy is 6%,
We want our
and you did
6%.
both sides, they're gonna charge their cut off of the 6%.
Well, off what you made.
Well, they're probably gonna revert back to, you should have taken it at 6%.
Yeah, and that's.
You
what
knew
I-
that was our company policy. Here we say, get what you can get.
Run for it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Get the check in the bank right here.
Yeah, take some money. Let's. Deceptive advertising, we talked about that. Earnest money, got that down. Oh, a sign in a yard without permission. That, to me, is a weird law. Who would put, why would you ever put a sign in somebody else's yard if you weren't selling that property? Somebody calls you and says, I want to buy that house right now, cash. Well, you're going to run over to the owner of this and say, hey, I got an offer on your house. Huh? Implied agency, we talked about that. Advertising your own property, 3 things. You got to identify yourself as an agent, got to be truthful, and got to have your broker's name on it, or the company name. Charging for services. I was at a real estate commission hearing about a year ago where there was this agent that she had done a deal. And she said, okay, I'm gonna need a $1,000 earnest money check, and you make that out to our company. And she said, and I need a $500 administrative fee, and you make that out to me. Uh-oh, I guess these heads say, no, I can't do that. Now, she would have been okay had she said, make that one out to the company as well.
Yeah.
But she was trying to, they call it circumvent the law. I was at a training in Montgomery not long ago, and they said, it's really, you're not circumventing the law, you're circumcising the law. That's where everybody gets hurt. Buying your own listing, that's a tricky situation. Because you know what the seller will take. They told you in the first conversation they had with you, I owe $217,000 on it. I got to get that, but let's put it on the market for $299. You know that now, and it's been on the market, and you keep thinking about how nice it'd be to live there, and you have got to decide, okay, I want to live here. You probably need to get with your broker then and say, okay, what do we need to do? The broker's going to say, we need to stop right now, write the seller a letter, because we want to document everything, because it's going to not be he said, she said. Write them a letter, said, this agent would like to make an offer on your home. Will you entertain their offer? Because you're not going to have agency with them anymore, because you're working now against them. Even though you've got this confidence, it's a tricky little situation here. But I think most of the time they probably work out just fine, because the seller, what's his goal? Sell the house. And he wants to get as much as he can with it. Well, he can negotiate with you the same as he would with anybody else. He said, well, I know I told you I'd take $217, but there's been a change. I'll take, the minimum I'll take is $260. Okay, well, can you negotiate it on down to $215? Maybe not, but you
meet somewhere in between.
Yeah, you're probably going to meet somewhere, because their goal is to sell it, your goal is to buy it. We can work this out. Disclosure. We talked about failing to furnish documents in reasonable promptness. That's the rule that everybody knows. But they've also got that number 25 about the listing agreement. You must leave that with them at the time you did it. And on our listings, remember there were 3 things in a listing. It must be in writing. It must have an expiration date. And there's that next one, no automatic renewal. You can't just say, well, if we don't sell it by the end of the year, we'll just keep going until we finally sell it. No, because you've got a personal service agreement with this person to do a task in this amount of time. If you can't do it, they're probably going to get somebody else to do it. And if you just got this listing, just goes on and on and on, it kind of ties them to you. Even though it's a personal service contract, they can cancel it at any time for any reason. Net listing, y'all remember that?
I do, but I ain't never understand what's so bad about that.
Net listing, here's what's bad about it. This lady and her husband bought this house 10 miles outside of town right after World War II. Got it on GI, paid $10,000, and it was a nice 3-bedroom, 1 bath. You've seen all these GI houses, they all look kind of alike. They were $10,000, 30-year mortgage, no money down. And they lived there and lived there and lived there and lived there, and the town grew. Now there's a Walmart next door to them, and a Target across the street, and something else over here. And now they've got this little 1-acre lot right there that they paid $10,000 for. And the husband's died, and she says, alright, if you'll sell this for me, you can have anything over $10,000. I think it's still worth at least $10,000. And you know it's worth $1 million. Would you be taking advantage of her?
Yep.
Yes, you would. And that's what they're after. You're taking advantage of people that don't know. Now you can do a net listing where they say, add your commission to the sales price. You'll hear that a lot. Because they just think all you got to do is just, I want $100,000 for it. Somebody will pay me that 100 plus your commission. So just add your commission to the top of the price. That's okay. That's not a net listing, even though they're netting a number. A net listing is where you're taking advantage of somebody.
But everybody you list a house tells you what they want for it.
Yeah.
Well, if she told you she wanted 10,000, what's the difference in her telling you that and somebody else telling you they want 25 for the one they bought 20 years ago in Wylam?
Well, I think the deal here is you'd be taking advantage of somebody, and that's what they're trying to eliminate. There may be a situation where it would not be as obvious, but you're taking advantage of someone. And remember our number one rule? Protect the public. I've heard some of you say it. All you people go through my class and they remember something years ago.
The listing contract, are those carbonless forms that you can?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're just copy paper now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just regular paper.
Oh, but I thought that'd be like, right through in a two-part form.
No.
No.
That's the reason it's tough to leave one when you list.
That's why I say make a copy of it, and then I like that idea of just making a picture. All right, what we got here? Earnest money. Earnest money is money that Ernest puts down to show he's earnest about doing the deal. Now, when you get earnest money, we talked about this earlier. When you get earnest money, get it to your broker immediately. Now, immediately doesn't mean 9 o'clock tonight. The overriding thing on this is agent safety. Do not go out somewhere with money at night.
Cash money.
It doesn't matter. There was a lady killed in Roebuck, 4 years ago? Taking an earnest money check to her office 9 o'clock one night. Her husband's sitting in the car while she wasn't put it in the mail slot at the front door, and somebody killed her. Over a check now. So don't put yourself in risk over money at any time. Don't take cash to begin with. You got way more risk if you're taking cash. But if you got a check, just hang on to it. The bank's not open at 9 o'clock tonight anyway. Don't put it in your account. They give you cash, don't put it in your account so you can write the broker a check the next day, because there we get down to, we don't have it on this one.
Commingling.
Commingling. See, you had the class and you know that word. Commingle. Look at
I
it.
bet the vice class.
Look at this.
Well,
Don't co-mingle.
Don't commingle.
Most real estate companies won't even take earnest money anymore.
Well, that was what I was going to bring up with the title side of this thing, okay? And Steve and I talked about this with some of the earnest money checks will be made out to the title company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is-
That's
seeing more
just
of
about
that.
all, in Orange Beach, that's all they'll do, selling condos.
Well,
No-
it makes sense because of risk management that
Yeah.
real estate companies want as little risk as they can get.
Right.
And if they can palm this off on the mortgage title company, then they'll do that. And that's okay with us, from the
Yeah.
title side. We've got this secure escrow company we use, and actually that's a perfect solution for this whole deal.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 I've sold, either the attorney's office or the title company.
Yeah, that's real common now. Real common.
In Orange Beach, Anchor Title holds it all.
Right.
All right, now if the deal falls apart, then we got money sitting here in the escrow account. What we got to do with it? Well, you just had
That sucks. That ain't even right.
It's got to stay in the earnest money account until the broker gets either permission, called this mutual release, where both parties have signed saying, okay, the money's going to be split, or it's going here, it's going there. The other alternative is what she's faced with now. The people that made the offer on her house have disappeared. The agent that was dealing with them disappeared. Nobody knows anything about these people. We don't know how to get a hold of them. So she's going to have to go to court and do an interpleader case.
And pay for it.
Yeah, she'll have to pay to go to court, and we're only dealing with $500. But if we don't resolve this within 7 years, then as the broker, I've got to send that $500 to the state.
But see, that's what I don't like. What they have to do with it, that was my house. They got a home warranty on it. I mean, a home inspection that cost me about $4,500 and walked.
They got a home inspection that cost you $4,500.
The repairs that they wanted.
Yeah, they wanted a cricket on the chimney, that 250 houses in that subdivision, didn't one of them have a cricket. Didn't even nobody know what a cricket was.
What is a cricket?
And that little If you had a real steep roof coming down, instead of it just hitting the chase, it's a gable that goes the opposite way.
Okay.
Like it
Deflects
makes
the
it
water.
run off.
Okay.
It deflects
Makes
the water
sense.
off the chase.
That's called a cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right,
Then
let's
You don't
nobody
see many
knew
of them on
that.
the backside most of the time, they're not visible on most of them.
Right. But there's
You've already
250.
you've already done that?
No, there was 250 houses in there, and not one of them had it.
I mean, you paid the money to do it already?
No, I refused that. But that inspector had his little drone, and he had all his little toys,
Yeah.
and he was, oh God.
You see how these things get out
He'd
of
leave a
hand?
stone
Risk, that's what
unturned.
we do, risk
He didn't
management.
leave a stone unturned.
But you paid for the home inspection?
No, they did.
No.
They did.
All right, onward and upward.
But the state
Wow.
gets my money. That
Other
ain't right.
people's money, we just, we dealt with the bottom part on this. The top part is,
Marizelle ain't gonna take anymore.
when the money comes in, an earnest money comes in, the broker can't just take it and put it in their operating account. They've got to have a separate security escrow account that it goes in and it stays there until something happens. And then it can be released out of there. That's the only account that the Real Estate Commission audits. They don't come in and look at your operating account. They don't care if you're making money or not. They just want to make sure you're taking care of everybody else's money. And we just talked about who could hold it, either broker or the closing agent. And you got to hold these records for 3 years. It's a good idea to hold them much longer than that because your problems don't even come up for 3 or 4 years down the road.
What's statute of limitations?
To bring a suit,
It's 2 years, isn't it?
It's anywhere from 2 to 6 years, and I can't keep up with all of them.
yeah, that's
Depends on
what,
if it's a
we've got every
written
record
contract
we've
or
ever
what.
produced. We've
Yeah.
still got every one of them.
Yeah.
I thought the title business, I thought it was like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are, yeah.
All right, so lawsuit, let's jump through this and look at this one. Here's where we start. When you first meet somebody, you're going to give them this form. This, you mentioned what is RECAD? This is the RECAD form. And why they call it RECAD when it's REBSD, that doesn't spell RECAD. This Real Estate Consumer Agency Disclosure is the name of the form. It looks like they ought to name it that. But this is what you give to someone when you first meet them. Say, I'm an agent. I have responsibilities and you have rights. Here they are. We can work together in these different ways. If you want me to represent you, we're going to be single agent. That's just me working for you. Sub-agent. I don't know why they even have this on the form. Nobody even knows what sub-agent is. You certainly don't need to be talking to the consumer about it. The sub-agent, every agent is a sub-agent under their broker. That's the only time you're going to have to think about sub-agent. The other two, limited consensual, well, we started out as a single agent, and that was with our seller. Now, somebody calls you off the sign, and first question you ask them is, are you working with an agent? And they say, no, we'd like for you to help us. So you bring them on and you give them this form and you say, how would you like to work with me? And they say, we want to be single agent with you. So you'll negotiate for us and look after us. Well, you can't be single agent with 2 people doing the best for each. So you have to revert, or not revert, but add this limited consensual dual agent. That's where you're kind of putting a wall up between them, saying, I can't tell them anything to hurt you, or that way either. It's Alabama's one of the few states that allow dual agency. Most states don't allow it. If you're single agent with the seller and someone comes to you and wants you to help them with this deal, you're going to be transaction broker. If you ever get the opportunity to work with a builder, you've done this, the builder, you're never going to be agent with that buyer. You're an agent of the builder. So that's where you are stuck there. And that kind of got me over my confusion on this, because I was working for the builder. People came in, I was never their agent. What would you like to offer for the house? I know they'll take this. Why don't you ask them for a refrigerator too? No, You're working for the builder. If they say, well, you think we could get a refrigerator too? You'd say, I don't know, but I'll write that in the contract for you. You're not giving them advice as a transaction broker. You've given your single agent advice, and your dual agent, you can give them advice if it doesn't hurt the other side. That buyer says, well, what do you think they'll take? What would you like to offer? They'll say, well, think they'll take this? It's what you want me to write? I will write that down.
So if you got your listing, so your listing agent, so you list the home, you know, and you give the seller this contract, I presume, right? And you get them signed up, so you're their agent, you're their guy.
Single agent.
And single agent, and then someone else come in, like in that scenario, a buyer comes in and sees your sign and says, I'd like you to represent me. It would be your obligation, I guess, to go back to the seller and say, or would you even do that? I mean, say, hey, this guy wants me to represent him too. Would it be okay with you if we did that and enter into it as a dual agent, consensual dual agent? But on the other hand, if the seller said, well, no, you're representing me. I don't want you representing somebody else. You would then go in as a transaction broker?
That would be your only choice if the seller said, no, I'm not doing dual agents.
Well, I mean, is there a choice? And the choice would be a transaction.
Well, this,
But don't normally in a dual, don't they pay you too? Don't they say, you know, I'll give you
well,
$1,000
we're
to
gonna
buy
get-
me a house?
Yeah, we're gonna get to those in just a minute.
Okay,
This is not a contract. Even
no.
though we got places down here for everybody to sign, this is a disclosure form.
It's information.
Information form saying, here's how we can work together.
Okay.
Now we get into, maybe I've got one here in a minute. Agency. Here, you're just saying, I can work with you in these different ways. Now, if we're going to be agency, that creates a special relationship called fiduciary.
Yeah, I believe it.
I've got to put your interest above mine or anybody else's. So I've got the house listed. Somebody comes up and said, can you show me the house? And the seller said, I'm only going to work with you as single agent. Well, this one you can only work as transaction broker. So, and what we normally do when we take a listing, we go over the dual agency with the seller, explain it to them then, and most of them say, fine, just sell the house. Now, this person that's a transaction broker, you can't tell them what they'll take. You can't tell them they're 3 months behind on their payment, they're fixing to lose the house. You can't do anything to hurt them. Or if you got dual agency, you can't do anything to hurt either one of them. That's our fiduciary duties. You've got principal. The broker is the principal. When you take a listing or you get a buyer's agency agreement with someone, it's not you. You're doing that on behalf of your broker. You're a sub-agent under your broker. So when you get a listing or a buyer agency agreement with someone, it's the broker's agreement. You leave the company, the agreement, the listing stays with the company.
Well, the broker is the agent and the principal's the client.
Yes, yes. The broker's
Not
the
the client.
agent. Yeah, the principal's the client.
Right.
If you've
not the
got
broker.
if you've got agency with them, fiduciary, then they're client. If they're just a transaction broker, they'd be called a customer.
So the agent is the real estate agent.
Yes.
But you're referring to him as a broker.
Well, the broker's the one the contract's with.
Right, who he works for.
Yeah, yeah. The contracts belong to the house,
Okay.
and we're special agents. Real special. That means we got limited things that we can do. We can help them sell their house by putting the sign out there, putting the lockbox on, showing it, but we can't order the house painted or even cut the grass. That's not within what we can do. That's a general agent, and that'll be a property manager. They can order the grass cut. If they've got the authority to get the house painted, they can do that. But bottom line here is, if you've got agency, that's a fiduciary, and you must put their interest above yours. That means they want to see houses in Hoover, so you pull up all the houses in Hoover and you just pick out the ones that are paying 10% commission. That's the only ones I'm going to show you. That's not fiduciary duty there.
Well, the flip side of that, So if I have a listing and you've got this is a weird question, but so you have a listing, so normally it's a 6% commission, 3% on each side. But there's sometimes where the buyer or the seller might say, well, I don't want to pay the listing agent or the buyer's agent. I'm not going to pay his commission no matter what. And, it explains that, well, the guy's not going to show your home. Okay, if you don't put this in there. That being said, so the buyer agent's looking through listings of homes. We see this one particular home that would fit. The buyer exactly knows it's right up what he's looking for. But as it happens, there's no buyer's commission put in that to be paid to him. So he would be in violation of his fiduciary agreement by not showing that home, even though he knows he's not going to make any money on it.
Correct. And we're going there too. We're going there too in just a minute when we get into the buyer
Interesting.
agent agreement. Yeah, that's fiduciary. They want to see a for sale by owner. And the for sale by owner doesn't have that sign down at the bottom that says agents welcome. That sign that says agents welcome is where they're saying, hey, I'll pay you. Not saying how much yet, but I'll pay you if you bring me a buyer. That's an open listing. But it may be no commission like you just said. They're not paying anybody. But if you have fiduciary with these people, you have an obligation to show them what they need, what they want. That's when we get to the buyer's agency agreement, and we're going to have one here in just a minute. These are the duties that you owe from this right here. Our duties right here are these duties. They're the hard questions that you must answer for everyone. The hard questions are honesty. That's the H. A's accounting. You got to account for all funds. R's reasonable care, and disclose material facts and anything else you must disclose, like you have a personal interest in it. You must also transmit all offers in a timely manner. That doesn't mean you've got a listing and then you get an offer from an agent over here, but you've got a buyer coming in tomorrow that's going to make an offer on this house. You can't hold this offer back. You got to get it on to them. Now, you also, just as a transaction broker, you just met them at the grocery store and they say, hey, can you show me some houses? And you say, sure. You can do these things here. You can show them information, you can give them information on it, you can show them the properties, you can help them write the offer, you just cannot advise them. And then you can give them some information on financing. Keep it simple though. Don't get your calculator out and say, well, today's interest rates.
But you should get them to sign a buyer's listing agreement.
We got one of those here in just a minute.
Yeah, okay.
Here we want these are transaction duties that you owe everyone. Now you go to agency and you've got additional duties. You must salute the colonel. You got to salute. You got all these duties, these same duties, but now you're going to salute the colonel, and that's the COL. That's confidentiality, obedience, and loyalty. Those are the extra duties that you owe someone you have the fiduciary agency relationship with. This is a booklet that's available on ARAC's website. It's 2 pages. You can give this along with that information form that's saying, here's how we can work with you, and here's how those things work. This explains transactions, single agency, and dual agency. All right, we've already got this, who's exempt and who's not. Let's skip these situations. Environmental hazards. You're not an expert on mold. You're not a home inspector. Don't get out of your box. Stay in your box. I'm going to help you with the contract. I can help you negotiate it. I can order these things, but I don't know anything about HVAC systems. I got one in my house that you turn the thing on the wall and here it comes on. If it doesn't come on, there's a number there I can call. Somebody can come fix it. But if it's not working, I don't know why. Don't get outside of your box and say, well, here's what's wrong with it. You're not a mold expert. Don't put these monkeys on your back. Lead-based paint, bad stuff. I just can't emphasize that enough. If it's a family with small children, children's. I told you I went to Birmingham schools. Lucky I know all those letters. Lead-based paint, prior to, they could actually quit using it about, I don't know, 10 years prior to 78, but in 78 it's kind of like they dropped the hammer and you cannot use it after here. You've got to have a lead-based paint disclosure form, we'll see in a minute, that says lead bad. You need to have this inspected if you suspect lead-based paint. The form, everyone in Alabama, everyone in the United States, I think, uses the same form because it's federal. It's going to say, does the seller know about any lead-based paint? No. I've never ever had a single seller say, oh yeah, 3 coats of it. No, they always say, no, I don't know anything about it and I don't have any records on it. Then the purchaser or tenant is going to acknowledge here that they got this form, they signed it, and they got this booklet that says, here's what you need to know about lead-based paint. It's a serious neurotoxin. It gets in you, not just your brain, but your other organs. And once it's in you forever.
You have to eat it.
You could breathe it probably, but eating is probably the most likely way you're going to get it in you. Even you can bring it in from outside on your shoes, and it gets in the house. It doesn't have to be from the paint.
Used to break open thermometers and put the mercury
Oh,
in
yeah, we did that all the
there,
time.
break them apart.
Oh, yeah, we had mercury in our hands.
I did too.
Brothers love it.
I did too.
Trying to get a reverse
Weird
mortgage.
roll.
We broke them apart in
Yeah,
little bitty
an old
beads and make them
mansion,
come.
basically.
I probably ate some of that
Beautiful
thing. My
home.
mom, the first house they built was
And
I
it's-
probably
we
too.
asked her-
I don't believe all this
First
crap.
was FHA.
I'm gonna go by it.
We
I
asked her
believe
about,
it.
we had to ask her
I
about
don't believe in
lead-based
global
paint.
warming either.
And she said,
They
well,
can
it's all been
spend
removed on the
every
inside of the
amount of
house.
money the United
on the
States has
inside.
got, and they can't do nothing about it if
But
it's
it's
true.
still on the outside window frames, you know?
Well, all she has to do
I
is she
guess
has
you
to
can
give
tell
us,
I'm not,
Do
so
what?
she doesn't have to get rid of it.
Oh, heck yeah. We
Then they
ate
get
them,
rid
shoot
of
them. Shoot them.
Yeah.
We're talking about we
Bicycles.
chewed on cribs and
Yeah.
put mercury in our hands and
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
So we didn't
I
know.
guess you can tell I'm not an opinionated
Didn't
person.
know. We do not have requirements to disclose these things unless we know about them. And radon, we don't have to test for it. We don't have to know anything about radon. In fact, most people don't know anything about it. But I'll tell you a little secret about radon. It is the second leading cause of lung cancer. 21,000 people a year in this country die from radon-induced lung cancer.
How you get it?
Radon's a naturally occurring decay of radon. What's that?
Is it like carbon monoxide?
It might be radon coming out of the ground.
Yes, it's a
That's what they call it. That's what
gas.
they call it.
It's decaying rocks and
Yeah.
stuff. I think concrete's one of them.
Can build up in a
decaying,
house.
It's a gas that's created. And like this building's built on a slab. Say there's a crack right down through here in the middle of this room. Well, the radon's going to find that crack and get in this room. Older buildings like this are not as susceptible to the radon staying in because the windows are not sealed well and air flows in and out of here. But new homes are tight. Air doesn't get in and out. So if you've got a crack in the floor of a new house, you're more likely to have some radon in it. Uh-oh, y'all back there saying, oh no.
Oh, no. Well, how would that work with that, big chunk of land, properties, homes in north of Birmingham that came with this environmental nightmare?
Totally
up there?
different thing.
It's a different thing.
Different thing, but here,
That
there's
was
not much
garbage,
you can
wasn't it?
do about it. There's a passive system you can use to where a slab home, they'll put one of those white PVC like sewer pipes that goes through the slab and then goes up into the roof. Doesn't actually have to go through the roof.
It's a vent pipe.
Yeah, it's a vent pipe to let the gas get on out. You may even have a fan in it to pull the air out. But it's there. It's in this room right now. There's nothing, you can't see it, taste it. It's here.
So we're gonna have lung cancer?
If you stay around here long enough.
Can I go now?
We're almost there.
It's close.
We got about 45 minutes and we'll be done. All right, we've got asbestos. If you know about asbestos, you gotta say, yes, there's asbestos in here. Same thing with lead, asbestos, what's that other, radon. Stigmatized properties, we talked about that. Sinkholes. Shelby County, just full of lime. Well, lime, water gets in lime and washes it away pretty quick. And then you're just left with the dirt up here. And then the dirt will collapse in along with your house. Shelby County has, I think, more sinkholes. And if you're selling property in Shelby County, you need to be aware of that.
Mines do that too.
No, I don't know about many up here.
Coal mines.
Sinkhole insurance.
Yeah, you get sinkhole insurance like you get earthquake insurance. I don't think you can get asbestos or radon or lead insurance. And then Megan's Law, that's no requirement to disclose that either. Okay, contracts. Need to have Sheriff Taylor in here to help us with this. There are 4 legals you got to have for a contract. And the way we remember these 4 legal things in a contract is we have Sheriff Taylor. He's the authority, got the badge on. He has the authority to do stuff. And then we have Floyd, the barber. Y'all remember Mayberry? Floyd the barber. We're just not sure if he's got all the oars in the water. We just may be incompetent. We just don't know. And then we've got Opie, who's 10 years old. All 3 of these, Sheriff Taylor, Floyd, and Opie, are all riding a porpoise. So your contract's got to have those 4 things in it. It's got to be for a legal purpose. There's our porpoise. You've got to have the authority to sign the contract. You've got to have the mental capacity to sign the contract. And you've got to be of legal age to sign the contract. In Alabama, that is 19 or 18 and married.
Where does Barney fit in there?
I couldn't put him in there. I wanted to get him in there. But we've got those 4 elements to a contract. In addition, with every contract, you drink a cola. The cola, the C is consideration. Every contract must have consideration. You've got good or valuable consideration. Valuable is cash or its equivalent. Good is like love and affection. That'll be between family members. The CO, what was O? CO, offer. You got to have an offer with a contract. Offer, and then the A is going to be acceptance, and then our L's are 4 legals. So you drink a cola with every contract. That's consideration, offer, all our 4 legals, and then the acceptance. The acceptance has got to be communicated back to the offeror. And that's when we have a meeting of the minds. We're on the same page. Everybody agrees this is what we have done. And there they are. Let me ask you something. Sheriff Taylor sits down in that barber chair, and Floyd picks up his, looks like scissors. Do they have a contract at this point? I'm seeing heads shaking yes, and if somebody said no, yes, yes. Yes, they do have a contract. Based on...
Does the consideration have to already change hands though? Because there's an assumption that Sheriff Taylor is going to pay the bill.
There we go. This is an implied contract.
He went to a business and he knows what he does in his business, and he sat down in the chair.
First time he walked in, he said, "Can you cut my hair?" And Floyd says, "Did you see the sign out there that said barber shop? That's what we do here." He said, "How much is it?" He said, "It's $25." Okay, can you just get it off my ears, and it's getting a little long back here. Can you take care of that? And they agree. They've made an agreement there. And then he sat down in the chair, and that first time they discussed all these things. That's where they expressed their intentions. I want you to cut my hair. I want you to pay me. And here's how we're going to make that happen. You do this, you do that, and you get paid. Next time he walks in, they don't have to discuss it. It's an implied contract then. Real estate, we don't have implied contracts. Everything must be in writing to be valid, except a lease for under 6 months. You can do that. A lease under a year, I mean. You can do a lease for under a year, verbal. Everything else,
Well, I've learned something, I didn't know that.
all right, so we could carry this a little further. Do they have expectations of an outcome here?
I
Yes,
do when I
both
go to
of them.
one.
Both of them do. I know when I sit down here, I'm gonna get my hair cut, and Floyd doesn't say, Andy, you beat me out of that quarter every time you've been in here. You gonna pay me this time? Is it for a legal purpose?
No. A haircut?
Yes. That's a legal purpose. Are they of age?
Yes.
Are they competent? Both of them?
One of them.
Yeah, we're not, that's why we got Floyd in this picture. We're not sure about Floyd.
He got a little sugar in his tank.
And are they legally authorized to perform? Yeah. So we have a promise that is something for something. Service for money. This is a valid contract. This is all, it's contract all summarized in one page. All right, so we got net sheets. Oh, y'all never done a net sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you've done a net sheet. You've done a contract, you've done a net sheet. If you've received a contract, you've done a net sheet for your side. Now, the rule is you've got to do a net sheet for your side of the deal and update it with changes. You don't have to do a new one every time, you just, because about the only thing that really changed was the price. Leave a copy, 3 years. There's everything you need to know about net sheets. There's on the Real Estate Commission's website, they've got a button up the top that says Briefly Legal. You can click on that and it'll open up a little a search bar and you can type in net sheets, or you could type in lead-based paint, or you could type in pretty much any topic that relates to real estate, and it'll bring up an article, a little cliff notes of what you need to know about net sheets. This is what one looks like. Up until about a year or two ago, they were both on one page. The closing statement, all on one form. Everybody knew what everybody was doing and getting and paying and everything. Now it's all a secret. You don't want the other side to know what this side's doing or getting. So this one is the seller's. It's going to have the costs that are associated with the seller. You want to know how you know these numbers, you got charts and all. Well, you're going to know what the commission was because you were the listing agent. So you're going to be filling this one in. Termite, wood infestation report. A termite inspection's about $150. You'll just learn this after you've done one. The wood infestation report, $150. Same guy does both. To me, that's a job I want. I'm already standing there. I've already looked around. I got $150. Why don't you give me another $150? And I'll say, nope, no wood infestation either. I think that one ought to be discounted. That ought to be like an extra $20 or something. But no. If you need a new termite bond, it's going to be about $250. Attorney fee, they've been going up. They were like $600, and they were $700, then they went to this new TILA closing statement, and they all jumped up to about $900. I've seen them at $1,100. So I just put $1,000 here, and this normally splits. This will be in the contract. There's a little checkbox in there that says we do agree or do not agree to split the cost of the attorney. If you do, then it's going to split. If not, one of them's going to pay it. But usually right now we've got the sellers are going to ask for some closing cost. This buyer said we want the seller to pay $5,000 of our closing cost, and the seller accepted it. So it's going to come over here as a $5,000 cost to this seller. We've got tax prorations. Alabama taxes are paid in arrears. So right now we are, this is a, yeah, I'm trying, we're in December now. So everybody owes October and November's taxes right now. It's a lien on your property right now. It's not recorded, everybody knows it's there, but when you give this to the closing agent, they're gonna send a little letter off to the Jefferson County saying, we need to know the taxes that are owed on this property as of this date. And they'll send them back a little letter and say, okay, you owe this much. Oh, and they didn't pay their taxes last year either. Now they're gonna owe that too. That means they didn't have a mortgage on it. If they've got a mortgage on the house, the mortgage company is collecting 1/12 of the mortgage and 1/12 of the taxes every
Not
month
always.
and rolling it into an escrow account. So you've got all these costs that are on the seller, and it totals up to, they've got $28,000 worth of cost on this sale. That's a $370,000 and they're gonna walk away with $341 minus the mortgage. And that's another thing, the closing agent will send a letter to the mortgage company saying, what is the balance as of this date?
Payoff.
Yeah, the seller knows, well, it's about 200,000, close. I don't know, it's close to 200. But the mortgage company will send back a letter, it's 205,800, they'll get right down to the penny. Boom. And then that's what they're expecting the day of closing. That's what one looks like. The one for the buyer, the buyer, I got one now, I don't have one for the buyer. The buyer would have different costs up here. It'd have loan closing cost, discount points, appraisal, those kind of things will be on the buyer's cost.
If in the contract it says that they'll pay $5,000 in closing, it goes on to say and prepaid items.
Yes, in the new contract it does.
So that's not right, in my opinion. Why should you have to pay for their homeowner's insurance and the back taxes?
Because they asked you for it and you said, I want to sell the house so bad. And that's what happened here. The buyer said, I want you
That
to
says
pay.
closing costs. That don't say in prepaids. Does that supersede what was in the contract?
Well, I didn't have room to type all that out.
Give me a break.
But in the contract, it says purchases, closing costs, and prepaid.
I
That's
know.
what it says in the
I
contract. I could probably bring this print down a little smaller. I see where that got on top of something right there.
Yeah, seller paid bonus if sold by December 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
And it
put
was
in
sold-
prepaids and let that.
You got here, it's gonna close, so the seller's gonna have a bonus on there too. I just threw that on there to just confuse it a little more. All right, that's a seller closing cost. Contracts, do's and don'ts. Let's just run through this real quick. Most of your negotiations will be done through email with the other agent. You're gonna get an offer on a property, and you're gonna look at it, and you're gonna call the seller and say, I've got an offer. And they're gonna say, well, how much is it? And you're gonna say, well, let me put together a estimated closing cost on it, because there's some other things they're asking for that's gonna affect that, how much is it? Because here, the offer's for $370,000. But you're not getting $370,000. And you give them that number, they think, well, that's what I'm getting. So you need to do this to show that here's what's going on. But you're doing all this, with them, you've sent this original offer to them along with the net sheet, and then the seller's gonna think about it. And then they're gonna call you back and say, well, you think maybe we could cut this seller contribution down to half of that? You think, I really don't want to pay $5,000. Can I pay $2,500 of it? And you say, I'll write it up and we'll see. Maybe something else up here. I don't know. I don't see anything else cut out.
The broker's fee would be 5%, normally that would be 6.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
On this price house, I think 5 is enough.
Well, probably, yeah, I agree.
But I wanted to ask you something on that as far as the mortgage part. If somebody asked you to pay $6,000 prepaid and closing, and their closing only come to like $4,200,
It says up to, in the contract, it says up to that much.
but they took all of it.
It should.
Homeowners, they put taxes, they put all kind of stuff in there and got the whole 6,000. But see, they don't want you to see their side anymore.
Right.
And see, he made a couple of grand off of that. Did the mortgage company need to know? I just don't think it's right.
Who made a couple of grand off of it?
The person that was buying the house.
Oh, well, you know.
Because they asked me to pay 6,000 in closing and prepaid items. Well, it didn't come to near that.
Well, it
But
says
I had to
up
pay it
to-
all.
You see that too, where your real estate agent ought to have a better handle on what normal costs are. Just to
Yeah.
give you some advice, that's what you're paying him for, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it was my personal house.
Which is what you should know then.
Well, yes, no, I wasn't his agent.
Ah, okay.
And, he got his homeowners, they even threw his, home warranty, no, I was paying the home warranty, I forgot now.
I guess so.
This is difficult to do this the first time or two, but
Yeah.
once you've done a few of them, you know what you can ask for and what you can't and what's acceptable. You just learn this little
Well,
box.
from the title standpoint, so, okay, I get all that, and those figures are close but not exact, and what I've been told from other lenders that we do business, mortgage people, they always estimate on the high side, because
That's
you can
true.
always come down, you can't go up.
That's true.
But, and I mean, way on the excessive high side, I mean, thousands of dollars higher, but that's okay, you know, if you tell the seller or whoever, say, this is high, just understand it's high, we're gonna come down off this, this is, you know, CYA or whatever you wanna call it. But, so, but that being said, you gotta leave that with them at that point in time, I guess, the seller. But would you have some time in there, I mean, like 24 hours or some period of time, that you could actually call the mortgage guy up, or title company up rather, and say, hey, what are the closing costs gonna be based on this loan amount?
Well, the second question you ask someone, first one is, are you working with another agent?
Right.
Second one, have you talked to a lender? Yes. Well, the lender's going to give them a good faith estimate
Yeah.
once they have got a price.
Within 3 days, yeah, we got.
Yeah, got to do that within 3 days, but this is that time of contract. But what I'm getting to here is, what was I getting to? Oh, follow-up, verbal. We're doing most of this on the phone now.
Okay.
We've come back to this price and the seller says, all right, I don't want to pay that 5,000. She didn't want to pay the 6,000. Can I cut that in half? Well, I don't know. I don't know if the buyer will go for that. They may be getting a VA loan and they don't have any money. They've got to have that to do the deal. So you call the other agent and say, hey, I've got a counter from the seller. They're good with everything except the closing costs. They'll go $2,500. See if your buyer will work with that. And they'll say, okay, I'll get back with you. And they'll contact their buyer and say, all right, everything's good except the closing cost. $2,500 is all they'll pay. And the buyer said, well, that's about all we thought they'd pay anyway. And then they'll tell their agent, and their agent tells you. Now we come back and reduce it to writing again. Used to, you would mark on the contract and send it back on the fax machine and go back and forth, but now you do it all over. We do stuff all the time. It's all over the phone.
Text.
Yeah, text or email, but then once you're in agreement, then we come back and correct the contract and correct the net sheet.
Of course, you left out the part where they call the title company up and try to beat them up. Well, the closing-
I don't think we've ever, I
Y'all
don't
have
never
that.
remember a
We-
case.
I never have.
We get that from time to time, so.
So we can? I didn't know that.
I didn't know
Well,
that
I've learned
either.
something
I
here.
never did.
Everybody out there in the internet land, the title company's negotiating
Paying what it
now.
was.
Well, I think they probably negotiate on, don't you get it like the title services fee?
Search, yeah.
Yeah, the services fee.
Yeah.
'Cause I think there's some things that's,
Yeah, well-
they told me that was said on.
Yeah, well, we don't make that much money on that type of stuff anyway.
A couple little things we need to know about the contract. A counter does not void a contract because the counter is going back and forth before there's a contract.
Right, that's an offer.
The counter is an offer, and then there's going to be a counter offer. But once we're under contract, we're not changing anything until the inspection comes back. And then we're going to open the negotiations back up. What will you fix, what will you not fix? present or not present, don't delay. Get it done right now. You got an offer in, go ahead and clear it up, be done with it. Be aware of your deadlines, especially now that we got time is of the essence written into the contract. That means if you missed your date, like the home inspection says 7 days. I think it's blank, and you can put whatever days you want in there. You put 7 days in there, and it's 2 weeks later, you call the seller, hey, can we get in the house to do the inspection? Seller can say, nope. Nope, you missed your deadline. I've actually had this happen.
Happened to me.
Yeah, I've had it happen and said, no, you can't. Or you could be nice and say, yeah, you can go in, but we're not fixing anything. We've got a solid contract now, and we've gone past the inspection day, so you're not going to be able to reopen the negotiations now. And that's all an inspection's about, is reopening negotiations. Knowledge, if your agent has knowledge, it's as the principal has the knowledge. Got in there a break clause. Break clause would apply, let's say you've got a house for sale, you've got it listed, and somebody brings you an offer and y'all work it all out, but there's a contingency in there that says a buyer must sell their home first. All right? If they can't sell their house, they can't buy this one. Well, you want to put in there a break clause, 48-hour break clause, saying that, okay, if we get another offer, you've got 48 hours to remove that contingency, or we move on to the next offer. Always put a time. 48 hours is a good time.
Do most sellers go along with that?
Well, they're happy to get a contract on it, have one in their hand, a bird in the hand. Over here on one of our little squares, we got a bird in the hand. Bird in the hand is, I don't have anything else, so I'll take this. But if another one comes along, I may take it if you can't remove your contingency.
Well, I guess you should say that the buyers normally go along with that. I guess they don't have a choice.
Well, they're glad you'll take that.
Yeah, okay.
I know we've rarely had one. I can't-
Most agents won't take them anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking no more than maybe.
It's houses sell so much faster right now. The
Yeah.
inventory's so low, they won't take a hardly. They
don't
won't
have
take
to.
a contingency.
Okay, got to present a timely. Now, the other agent, here's something a lot of agents don't understand. You got the listing, but you got a bad reputation. People just know you, and they don't really like you. And this other agent knows that, and they've got an offer, and they know you cheat. So they say, hey, I want to present my own offer, because I don't think you're even going to present it. I get them all the time. They'll say, I want confirmation that this went to the seller. Really?
Well,
But they have the right to present their own offer to your seller.
How do you give them confirmation? I guess,
Well, I'll just send them back. I just send it to them.
okay.
I don't have to send them a time stamp or anything. It's in their hands right now. But this buyer's agent has the right to present their offer
directly to the owner.
directly to the owner.
Wow.
And once they've done it, they can't negotiate it out right there. They got to back out of it and let your agent handle the negotiations. Okay, multiple offer situation. In this market, supply and demand has kicked in, and there's more demand than there is supply. So people are making offers. You know, they're not going to wait in a week. You put a good house in the market, within a week you should have an offer. You may have 2 or 3 offers now. If you get 2 or 3 offers, then you're going to send an email back to those agents saying, hey, we're in a multiple offer situation here. Send us your highest and best by Friday at 5. Now, you don't want to counter each one of these offers back at full price and send them back out, because they may say, okay, and now you've sold this house 3 times. You got a problem there. So you say highest and best. Give me your highest and best. Now you get them back all in there, and they're all at the same price. I mean, a higher price. They're all, $10,000 more than what, and they're all exactly now. They're all offering $300,000 for this house. What do you do now?
See what they're asking for in closing?
Yes,
and-
you gotta dig a little deeper in there. What kind of financing? Well, this one's cash, this one's conventional, this one's VA. All right, which one of those got the best chance of closing?
Cash.
Cash. Cash is king. So that's probably the one we're gonna pick this one apart first and see what else are they ask. What they slip in here now? Oh, they want 10,000 in closing costs. They raised it 5, and now they want 10 in closing.
On
They didn't
cash
think we'd
sale?
catch that. Yeah, there's still closing cost. No, it wouldn't be 10,000.
No.
Let's see, okay, got that? Contrast, skip through the situations. Antitrust. We touched on this earlier about my company policy is 6%. That's fine. But if all of us are sitting in here having lunch one day and we're all brokers at different companies, and I'm sitting here saying, yeah, I just can't make it on 6% anymore. And you sitting back there and say, yeah, if we could go to 8, we could all make a living. And you say, yeah, 8 sounds good to me. Then you say, yeah, anybody else in for 8? And everybody raises their hand. Well, just go ahead and put the handcuffs on them. Because you are price fixing. Price fixing's federal. They don't like that. Group boycott. Here's the situation that's coming. Discount brokers are coming in. There's a guy in Miami that has 200 listings here in Birmingham. He doesn't know where Birmingham is. Never been to Birmingham. But he's got 200 listings here. That he's taken those listings at a discounted price, a flat fee. All he's doing is putting them in the MLS. You send him the pictures, he puts those in the MLS. He's required to give them a RECAD to begin with, and when an offer comes in, he must transmit it to them along with a net sheet. That's pretty much the limit of what he's got to do. All right, well.
He's got to be licensed in Alabama though.
Yeah, he'd have to be licensed here and a member of the MLS here, so he can put the listings in this MLS. But, forgot what I was fixing to say.
Is that the physical?
About his 200 and how he's doing it.
Fizbo.com. Yeah, he's got
But
200
yeah.
listings here, but he's not negotiating any of those. He's just passing the paperwork along. That's all he's got to do. Well, the full service brokers here that are getting 10% for selling residential properties, they don't like him. They don't like him at all. They wish he would just go away.
I thought it was 5 or 6%.
This is a teaching moment. I can't quote prices because this is going out all over everywhere. And some people work for 1%, 2%, 10%. I want them to think we're working for 10% here. And they're going to be jealous. They said, we can sell houses in Alabama for 10%? And they're out in California saying, yeah, but they're only $30,000. But the other brokers here don't like that. How are we going to get rid of this guy? Well, how do you think they could get rid of him? By not showing his listings. So we're all sitting around at lunch after we did our price fixing, and we said, another thing I want to talk about. This guy down in Miami, how about we just quit showing his listings? That'll show him. That'll put him out of business, and then we can get more business. That we'll get 5% on each one of them. That's boycotting. Also illegal. Don't do it. In fact, don't even talk about it. You're just talking about it as conspiracy.
Click.
Click. Let's don't talk about that anymore. I'm already telling everybody what we're doing here. Yes, we get 10% on all our residential listings. Liability, we've already talked about this. Yeah, we covered all that. AR, yeah, got that covered. There's our fresh corn. We mentioned it, but we didn't talk about it. Fresh corn is an acronym for the protected classes. F is familial. Spell check doesn't like that word either. Familial status, that's a family with children, and that includes a woman that's pregnant. I got fussed at one night because I kept saying he. And he said, well, should include she too. Well, this guy, I can't include he. It's a woman that's pregnant. So you can't discriminate
Or
against
for guys
them.
to do that.
Can't discriminate on race as of 1866. That actually didn't hit Alabama until about 1966, but still it actually happened 100 years earlier. Can't discriminate on sex. Used to, in the mortgage business, a woman couldn't get a mortgage. She walked into the bank and said, hey, I want to buy a house. I said, hi, get your husband to come in. Stop that. Handicap, we've already talked about the different handicaps. Color, even with the different races, you have different colors. Religion, you can't discriminate on religion. That's one of the things that we had to do on our, with our property management side. When we would do an application, the person's name would be. I had one person to call me back and say, what is Muhammad? What Muhammad, I don't understand. Where are they from? Whoa. All of a sudden we had to, now names don't go out on when we send the summary to the owner about who's going to be renting their house. It's just, here's their credit score, here's their income ratio. You don't need to know anything else about them, because the only thing we're allowed to talk about is credit score and income ratios. You don't need to know their name's Muhammad. You might not like them. And yes, sir.
Don't forget to throw in the service dogs now.
Oh gosh, yes. We got a new issue with dogs.
And can't even discuss it with the owner.
No, we have one of the things that we have to talk about owners about is, will you allow pets in the property? And some of them fine, and some of them say no pets. But if they have a service animal, different from a support animal, a service animal is one that has been trained to do a task. It can open a door, it can turn on a light switch, it can open it can do something.
Does it have papers?
I don't know that they have to have papers. I don't know what the rule is on
I
that.
would think they'd have some type of training paper, somebody had to train the dog.
I don't know that.
But I don't know.
I don't know that. They tell me it's a service dog. We've only had one case where it was an Army vet that had the Army actually gave him the German Shepherd, and it was trained to do things for him. They bought the dog's food and paid his vet bills and did everything.
That's awesome.
But we can't collect a pet fee on that animal because it's not a pet. We also charge extra rent per pet. Can't do it with a service animal.
He's got two dogs up. He's got another dog in the house.
Oh, this is a different person.
Oh, is it? It's in Pleasant Grove?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
okay.
sorry. I thought there's a house at Pleasant Grove.
And we got one at Montreat.
Okay.
Somebody
Yeah.
told me that you don't have to have no kind of papers or nothing.
No, you
To
don't.
go in
Wow.
Walmart, anywhere, you take your animal, you can say it's a service dog and they can't question you.
That's what I thought. I wasn't sure about when you
They
asked me
can't
about the
question you, and
papers.
that's
It's like
wrong.
somebody in a
People-
wheelchair having to prove what the accident was, and this
Yeah,
is
you
why I
can't
got it.
ask-
You just can't.
You cannot ask someone what their disability is either.
No.
Right,
They say it's
but
not
it's not,
disabled.
people are taking advantage of that though, and that's bad.
Probably.
Anybody that wants to take their dog can, and you can't ask. That's not right.
And a lot of them are skirting around, they're circumventing that
Yes.
Yeah.
with support dogs or support animals.
Mhm.
Y'all see that thing on TV not long ago where somebody took a peacock on an airplane?
Poor peacock.
Yeah, support peacock on an airplane. Wait a
Unbelievable.
minute now.
But my wife and I saw at Costco just a couple of days ago a big Doberman. That I've never seen a Doberman as a service dog
No.
in Costco. And I was thinking, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think some
First
people
thing
are pushing that.
They're pushing it.
From what I understand, you cannot ask and they don't have to show nothing. Just
Wow.
say it's support.
Yeah. All right. Some other violations we're going to stay away from is steering. Wouldn't you be happier with people like you? No. No. And the other one is blockbusting. Guess who's moving in the neighborhood? You better get out while you can before the prices drop. Don't do that. Steering, blockbusting. The other one is redlining. I don't think we can talk about that here. Oh, we do.
Maybe we can.
There's some way you can.
That's just lenders though.
Yeah, this applies to lenders. They will draw a line around an area they don't want to lend in. Here in Birmingham, it's Fairfield. They don't want to lend in Fairfield because a third of the mortgages in Fairfield go belly up. Well,
They might not have a city much longer either.
may not, but
They don't deserve
if they
one.
draw a line around Fairfield and say, we're not gonna loan because a third of the loans go belly up, what's that doing to the other 2/3? They've got good credit, paying their bills, but you won't loan to them just because they're here. Can't do that. We got a couple of exceptions here. Senior housing, that's where everybody's over 62, or 80% of them are over 55. We got some local laws. I think Hoover and Pelham both passed an ordinance that you can't have over 2 people in a bedroom.
I think so.
That, to me, I don't know.
Ain't a bad idea.
Health and safety, threat of, reasonable demands, actually modifications. Someone that comes to you in a wheelchair, and there's 3 steps to get up to the front door, you need to build them a ramp. That is a reasonable accommodation for the landlord to do. You can't make them pay for the ramp. It's a reasonable accommodation. Now, if they want the ramp to get up to the 2nd floor and go all around the building, that's not a reasonable accommodation. Other groups, the religious groups, they may discriminate, but not on, if they don't discriminate in their membership, or they do. If they don't discriminate in their membership, they can't discriminate in their housing, like rent houses. And an owner-occupied 4-unit building. This is called Miss Murphy law. If Miss Murphy lives in one of the 4 units, she can discriminate against anybody she wants to. She said, I don't want you here.
I didn't know that.
Well, see, you learned something. And when I say, what did you learn today? I learned one thing. I was here for 5 hours and I learned one thing. Fair housing, don't look at who's buying it. Look at the features of the house. It doesn't matter who lives around here, it's the property. You can't say in your advertising, like, no Mexicans allowed, or within walking distance to Catholic schools. I didn't understand that one at first, but then they say what it does, it's saying, well, you're discriminating against people that can't walk.
Really?
Really? That's what I said. Really? Walking just to Catholic schools.
You have to
Well,
be an American citizen to buy a house.
they may not be Catholic, so they can't walk, and they're not Catholic, so they can't live around here.
Do you have to be an American citizen to buy a house?
No.
And this is good. I'll tell you real quick, this is kind of sad. The best school in Hoover is that little Prince of Peace Catholic school over there on that cut through at Sulphur Springs Road. That was voted the best school. Hoover School's got 16 schools, and that little Catholic school was voted the best school in Hoover.
That's one way to whack you in your hand.
Isn't that wild?
Word.
Get a little
Or if you're
discipline.
left.
Little discipline.
This thing has got 3 pages to it. I just put the first one up here. These are the words you cannot use in your advertising, the bolded words. Able body, can't use that. What's that got to do with anything? I didn't make the list up. I just found it on the internet. No AIDS, no alcoholics. I don't know why you can't, if they're in treatment, you can't discriminate against them. But here you just tell them up front, don't want you. A lot of stuff on there that you say, why is that even on there? Near churches? What? Who's that discriminating against?
I guess
The people that are not religious, they don't want to live near a church?
We don't hear about
I want to hear those bells all the time. RESPA, we're almost through, folks. RESPA is a Real Estate Procedures Act. This is the only reason Mike came into class today was to learn about RESPA.
I had to write a book.
RESPA requires disclosures that list all the costs. Some of these costs can change, some cannot. The whole purpose behind RESPA was to level the playing field, to eliminate kickbacks, rebates. That hurts the public. If every time I sent somebody to Mike for a mortgage, he said, I'll give you $100. Well, who's that gonna hurt?
Nobody.
It's gonna hurt the public because the person getting the loan, Mike's gotta make up for that $100. He's gonna have to add that $100 in there as a fee. Marketing fee, $100. Now, what's that for? Well, that's a kickback I gave New Location Realty.
I'm from the government, I'm here to help you.
So what about the $100 you can give them for listing?
Well, his is a business to business that's gonna hurt the consumer. Giving the customer $100 to list with your company, that's not covered under here. As long as you disclose it to everybody, we're good. These are the services that are covered under RESPA. Pretty much eliminates any kind of kickbacks or referrals or splits. The only thing can split is broker to broker.
In the mortgage business, say anything, if somebody comes to you, comes to you from, as a mortgage broker, if a real estate agent or somebody else comes to you about that, the thing would be that this old mortgage guy told me this, his rule of thumb is if they can heat it, then don't worry about it. But if it's something that they wear or can be seen, don't do it, because I thought it was, if you give them a meal, it goes away. But
Now you gotta disclose any kind of business arrangements. Let's just say Mike has a mortgage company, and I have an ownership interest in it. Every time we do a contract, we would have to disclose we have an interest in this mortgage company. If you do business with them, we're gonna make some money on it. That's got to be disclosed.
well, additionally, we have to have on top of that, thing saying, you're not obligated to use the title company or whatever. You can use whoever you want, but if you want to use us, we might make some money on it.
And this is telling you there's trouble coming if you do it. And there we're at the end of the class. If y'all want to stay around another 15 minutes, we can play Jeopardy. Or we can end the class right here. What do y'all want to do?
Let's just go on.
We through?
I got some trouble.